this harness here that's coming up to the targa cover. One of the hatch here goes down into one of the main harnesses that I took out of the center bulkhead of the car. That needs to come unplugged right here. Okay, so with the starter disconnected and the coolant lines disconnected, fuse box disconnected, secondary air stuff disconnected, air box disconnected, the next thing to do is go over to this side again. I believe all I have holding it on right now is this banjo bolt for the fuel line, this ground right here, which I'm actually going to take off from the block, I believe, the clutch, I believe I can get it off from the slave cylinder down below, and after that I think it's just the engine mounts. So right now I'm going to get off this banjo bolt. So on second thought, I was having a little bit of trouble getting that banjo bolt off. Got the 10mm off on top fine, but the 17mm seemed to want to spin the whole canister. Couldn't really get two hands on it to hold it and turn a wrench, so I ended up going with this banjo bolt right there. That one was much easier, and I'll just rest it up on top. And I know in the book they say that you got to take off this targa brace, but I kind of like it because I could actually stick magnetic things to it because it's not aluminum, which is nice. And so if I want to stick a light to it, it's there. I could rest tools on it, whatever. And I haven't really found it to be that much in the way, really. So you can, at least so far, it looks like you can leave it there when you're taking the engine out of one of these. So, but anyway, that banjo bolt, not that one. There's a washer that goes on the top of this banjo bolt underneath the nut. So there's the washer and the nut holding them together, but it goes on the top, not the bottom. Alright, so next up is the clutch. I gotta disconnect that from the transmission. So it appears the clutch sleeve, you can either take off the line for it, or right on top there's two bolts. Maybe you can see them better from this angle. Right there. So I'm going to take those off now. They appear to be 12mm. Also, this bracket right here, it's kind of an H-shaped bracket. That has to come off. They're 14mm. They seem to be torqued down pretty good. I used a breaker bar to loosen them up, just so I didn't destroy my knuckles with a ratchet. But yep, that has to come off. Okay, I got these 3 coolant lines off, and next is this ground right here. So I'm gonna take that off with a 10mm. There's this little plastic clip on top with rubber, and you just kind of spread this plastic part gently. It's brittle plastic, and rubber pops off. So now is the AC compressor, and there's 2 ways you could do this. Looks like you can get to the bolts through up there. There's 4 through bolts. It also looks like you can maybe start to lower the car and get to them from this way. However, my system is already evacuated, so what I'm going to do is just disconnect it from the AC lines here rather than take out the whole compressor. If you don't want to do that, there is a way to leave the compressor on, or I mean take it off of the engine and leave it attached to the car so that you don't lose any refrigerant. In my case, that's not an issue. Okay, so I believe everything is undone. Anything that's not will get torn off when I lower this thing, and I'll find out real quick what I missed. But I believe I got everything. Suspension is off on the through bolt there. Now the only thing that's left is the transmission mount right there. I have to take that 1 bolt off right there, and that goes through that motor mount or transmission mount, so that'll be taken off. Then what has to happen is I'm going to loosen up this bolt, and the opposite on the other side. That's what holds the rear crossbar here. I also have to take off anything else that's going all the way through. So this one, those two I don't have to take off, I don't think. Right there. Sorry, those two. That one does have to come off. And on the other side, as far as subframe things go, I have to take off this one and this one. This one here. And down here on the front crossbar, I have to take off this one and this one. However, first you loosen them all up, then you take them off, except you leave one in the front, one in the rear on both sides, and you put the cart underneath it. And then you lower the engine to the cart. I believe I'm going to use this one. It's a little high for my liking, but it's what I have available, and it's strong enough to hold the motor. I think in order to level everything off, I'll have to put a piece of wood on one side underneath the transmission. Yeah, I think that's it, so I'll get to it. Once you're down to your last couple bolts there on each side, and you have it lowered onto the cart, then you undo the last ones, and the weight of everything will be on the cart at that point, and then you just you raise the car upwards off of the engine. Also, these two bolts up here have to come off. This motor mount here, transmission mount, is a lot easier to get to from the top once the airbox is gone than it is from underneath the car. So that's it right there. This motor mount right here has to come out. I'm going to take off the two bolts there, the through bolts right there, and that's it. As you lower the subframe, you'll realize the rear part will hit your cart first. Towards the front of the cart won't, so you'll have to kind of use some wood to get it to level out, so all the weight rests evenly. And when you're lowering it down, you got to go really slow, because if you put too much weight in the cart on a lift, you'll start to lift the back end up, and the whole car will tilt on the car lift. So just ease it down really slowly until the weight of the engine is on the cart. Then you disconnect your subframe bolts or whatever is holding up, and or your motor mounts, and then you start lifting very slowly. And it's really good to have another person as a spotter to make sure from above and below that no wiring's getting hung up, or hoses or grounds or anything like that. You don't want to rip anything off. Looks like I missed one plug right here. Luckily it came off easy. I'll have to go get some needle nose to get it out of there. Looks pretty good. This cart I used is cracked. Don't use hardwood crate carts. I don't care what they say the ratings are for. I even beefed it up with wood. Sketchy. Use good parts. Alright, there it is. Sketchiest engine stand ever. So I wanted a cart that was about this high, so it'd be, eye level when you're working on stuff. It's right here. It's perfect level to work on the thing. Unfortunately, all of the carts in this shop that are that height were being used for various other things, so Last minute, I ran to Harbor Freight and I bought. It was rated for 500 pounds, I think, and I knew I'd be going a little over that. But before I even put hardly maybe half of the weight of the thing on there, like, it was still held on by subframe bolts, just from me loosening the subframe bolts, and the thing, as soon as it put a little bit of weight and started lowering on it, it just started crumpling. So I took some 2x4s and just braced it up half-assed. I didn't do any knee bracing. If I had done some knee bracing, it would have held up a little better, I'm sure. But that thing wants to fail catastrophically, so that's why I have these big 10x10s next to it. So what I did was I strapped it up with a big ratchet strap, big nylon straps, and I'm gonna lift up the car, get this piece of crap cart out of here. It's not worth the paint that's on the thing, honestly. And there's a much lower cart, so I'll stack the 10x10s on that, on the lower cart, to get it up to a reasonable working level. And that'll be it. But this is pretty ghetto and sketchy. Don't use Harbor Freight carts. Alright, so now I'm going to try to fix my mistake. Alright everybody, thanks for watching. I appreciate you tuning in. I appreciate the support. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe below, and stay tuned for more videos coming shortly. I try to release one every week. Thanks.